Before I begin, I just wanted to give my biggest thank you to the ANY Pony for taking the time to look at my analysis of Twilight's Kingdom and give feedback. It's much appreciated. You should have seen my expression when I saw he had acknowledged my video. This video looks way different from my last one for the sake of time. The software I used previously, it had taken me 6 hours to edit my Twilight's Kingdom analysis, and the results were less than quality material. If you know of an alternative to Sony Vegas or Adobe Premiere that I can get without pirating for free on Windows XP, let me know in the comments. It's wishful thinking, but if there's a chance, I want it. So this is my Equestria Games analysis, and I want to dive right in. This episode had so much potential, and it was almost all wasted. We see games ponies play, and then flight to the finish, and then Rainbow Falls, and then this, and then all expectations are thrown out the window. Most people think that the fact that this was centralized around Spike was the downfall of the episode, but I have to disagree. It tried to incorporate the actual games, showing scenes from the ice archery and the aerial relay, but there just wasn't enough time. Had this been a 2-part episode like many of us had expected, they would have had time to give Spike the spotlight without taking away from the event that had us hyped for so long. Time and time again, characters have been portrayed differently throughout different episodes, and that has to do with the fact that there are several writers for the show. Spike, on the other hand, remains almost totally constant across the series. The episodes that I think of are Owl's Well That Ends Well, Dragon Quest, and Crystal Empire, all written by different people, Cindy Morrow, Meriwether Williams, and Megan McCarthy, respectively, and Equestria Games was written by Dave Polsky. Despite this, we see Spike as one character throughout as opposed to a different one in each episode depending on the writer. The one thing that we know from all of these episodes is that the most important thing to Spike is what others think of him. In Owl's Well That Ends Well, Spike feels personally threatened by Owlicious because he lives for his title of #1 assistant, which is a title that he can't place on himself. In Dragon Quest, Spike wants to be accepted and succumbs to peer pressure on several occasions to make the other dragons think better of him, and the whole reason he joined the dragon migration in the first place was because of the things that the main 6 had said about him and how they viewed him. In the Crystal Empire, we learn that Spike's biggest fear had been being rejected by Twilight. Spike's very paranoid and very hasty when it comes to making conclusions. In Owl's Well That Ends Well, Spike takes an aggressive approach toward Owlicious, and he's antagonistic, making it really hard to empathize. But now we see Spike as the victim of everything he's experienced, and it makes it easier to take in everything he's learned and to relate to him. Something that made Spike even more relatable was when he, and I use this term loosely, sang the Cloudsdale anthem. It was long and very difficult to sit through, and that's a good thing. The first time I watched the episode, I spent the vast majority of the song cringing. When Spike's singing about wishing it was over, he wasn't the only one. If it was that terrible just listening to it, just imagine how it would feel being the one singing it. It's made to be that long so the viewer can understand Spike's dilemma on a higher level. Is it ridiculous? Yes. Is it stupid? Absolutely. But is it necessary? And to that, I also say yes. Even though this episode did a great job in the characterization department, there were several little things that bothered me as well as some plot holes. Just to start with the little bits, how did Spike's face get singed like it did when the torch got lit? In Dragon Quest, he literally jumped into a pool of lava and came out completely unscathed, but now suddenly he gets a little too close to a flame and his face is totally burnt. But that's beyond insignificant. Also insignificant but bothersome is in the beginning on the train when Fluttershy and Bulk Biceps were lifting weights with their hooves. They flew in the games. What good would lifting with your hooves do? Moving on to something a little bigger, the disabling spell. This had so much potential like the episode did as a whole, but like I was saying earlier, there wasn't enough time to focus on more than Spike. Had this been a 2-parter, we would have learned more about this and we would know why it was used. The security guard told Rarity that unicorns were no longer allowed in the stadium without being disabled to prevent cheating or something of the sort, in a way that implied that they were allowed in previously. I get that this was in place to set up the Frozen Cloud scene, but I would have loved to see what the reason was behind that new rule. What would have been really cool if it was a canon character that caused the rule. They had so much that they could have done, but no time to get it done. Another flaw is that there were alicorns there the whole time. I find it less than likely that they also had to give up their magic to watch, since they're royalty, and trusted, and other things. But who knows? Maybe they did anyway or something. I don't really know how that all works. Now, the moral. Oh my God, I loved it. This is the most relatable moral, to me anyway. They took a very real character and decided to give him a very real moral, and it worked perfectly. I don't really want to get too detailed on why it relates to me, just 6th grade talent show, singing, forgot some lyrics, had to improvise, and they all still loved it. But anyway, Equestria games will probably always stand out as my favorite moral of the entire series. So, in conclusion, Spike is a very realistic character, and the events in Equestria games just added to it. Also, there wasn't enough time in the episode to be relevant to the event we've been hyped about for so long. There were a couple little inconsistencies, but they were so minuscule it didn't hurt the episode that much. So, that's about it. Next time I'll show you all my thoughts on Inspiration Manifestation, which I have very high hopes for. Stay tuned for that, but for now, that's all from me, so see you later.
This guy is too good! He shoots fire from his brain!